Hey people, Zaniverse here. Buckle up, because today we're heading off the beaten path and into the unknown with Pacific Drive. A part mechanics simulator, part survival horror game. It's like Stephen King's Christine and Mad Max's Love Child, shrouded in supernatural mystery and set in the jaw-dropping destruction of the deadly Olympic Zone. It drops you into the driver's seat of a beat-up station wagon, combined with the roads of the zone, which have long been left abandoned. Your task? To survive, explore, and uncover the unseen dark secrets of this abandoned place while keeping your ride alive. From fog-laden eerie forests to abandoned roadside diners, Pacific Drive promises to turn your casual drive into a pedal-to-the-metal struggle for survival. Who among us, though, hasn't felt a shiver run down their spine on some lonely road at night? Now mix in the fact that every shadow could hide a monstrous secret or a ghostly apparition waiting to spring, and you have a recipe there for a type of thrill that leaves one wondering if they should have taken the bus instead. So, with no further ado, let's dive right into Pacific Drive to discern whether it's worth the trip or better to stay at home and leave ghost hunting to the professionals. Developed by the ambitious newcomers at Ironwood Studios, a team that has dared to merge the rusty gears of driving sims with the shrieking banshees of survival horror. And what better setting for test driving this haunted hybrid than in the rain-soaked, fog-smothered landscape of the Pacific Northwest's Olympic Peninsula. The quest to bring Pacific Drive to your screens began all the way back at Sony's State of Play in 2022, where the first trailer rolled out, a series of cryptic love letters to horror and driving enthusiasts. It was teased with visuals so on point you could practically feel that mist on your face, and the creak of your car's undercarriage begging for mercy. Built using Unreal Engine 4, Ironwood Studios touted the title not only to raise the bar in visual fidelity, but to raise innovation and interactive environmental storytelling as well. That ambitious vision was left to the relatively green team at Ironwood to master a whole host of new features Unreal Engine 4 had in store. They wanted to nail everything, from the rust on your car to the spectral glow of ghostly figures. However, ambition comes at a cost. For one thing, the powerful engine took some taming. But perhaps more importantly, the dynamic weather system, which was meant to be a layer of unpredictability added to the game, often caused crashes. In the maelstrom of game development, the studio also wrestled with how to make the game accessible to casual thrill seekers, yet satisfying to hardcore horror fans. They dug through feedback from beta testers, modulating everything from the way the vehicle handled to the manner in which the story unfolded. The team burned the midnight oil in Pacific Drive's final stretch. They guzzled coffee and fought sleep to keep their game from becoming roadkill on the dev highway. Their goal? An unforgettable journey, a labor of love that had showcased what happens when you floor it into uncharted territory. They poured their hearts into this wild ride, hoping it'd leave a mark on players' minds. The heart of the game is your vehicle, an old trusty station wagon that's more than just your mode of transport. It's your mobile base, your arsenal, and your only sanctuary against the horrors lurking in the mist. But this isn't your typical Sunday drive. The game throws a mechanic at you that's as twisted as the winding roads you're traveling on. Your car needs constant upkeep, from refueling to repairing to upgrading with scavenged parts. As you push deeper into the fog-shrouded forests and desolate towns, the survival elements throttle up. The zone is alive, not just with the spirits of the Forsaken, but with dynamic weather patterns that change gameplay in real time. A sunny afternoon can quickly turn into a foggy nightmare where visibility is slashed, making you jump at shadows that dance just beyond the headlights. Rainstorms batter your car, reducing traction, while mysterious electromagnetic anomalies can shut down your car systems, leaving you a sitting duck in the dark. The primary part of Pacific Drive's gameplay is of course the driving through various zones the game has to offer. Zones come in a few different shapes and sizes. The first one of these are highway zones, largely linear and straightforward zones with the least amount of anomalies and lootable structures defined. These usually serve as a short in-between segment if your next real sector is a long distance away from the previous one. The first real sectors are perpetual stability ones. These sectors harbor a varying range of anomalies but are still rather harmless in the grand scheme of things. Due to them being stable enough, you'll have as much time as you like to explore and loot them. Once you get closer to the mid-zone, you can come across zones with extreme conditions, usually ramping up the danger level by quite a large margin. You've got eerie darkness, which makes zones even darker than they already are. Fuel evaporation, which causes exactly what it sounds like. And exhausting explosions will make it so damage taken from explosions will also drain fuel and battery power. And lastly, high instability zones are zones that can start to collapse in on themselves within a moment's notice, causing you to have to get the hell out of there faster than you can leave a comment on this video. Is that how farming interactions works? All zones have the main objective of collecting bits and pieces that you can use to upgrade your car back at the garage, as well as collecting anchors in order to get your hands on that sweet limb energy. Limb energy comes in three forms: stable, unstable, and corrupted. It's recommended to not hold them for that long, as doing so will literally melt the flesh off your bones. Once back at the garage, you can spend limb energy and crafting materials in order to unlock blueprints to upgrade your car, its abilities, and your character itself. Afterwards, you can spend even more crafting materials to make new parts or replace damaged ones. doors, wheels, side panels, the trunk and hood, down to minute details like hood ornaments and whatever bobblehead you want to put on the dashboard can all be customized to your heart's content, even the paint job. The game is sort of like a roguelite, as during every drive you take, you start out back from the garage. And you can use the map there to plan a route ahead or just drive out into the unknown if you're feeling frisky. And after you've had enough exploring or you've gotten enough limb energy, you can create a gateway back to the garage. I do have a small gripe with how the system works in the long run. You'll always have to start back from the outer zone, even in the late game. And once your car is upgraded to a certain point, there's really nothing worth getting out of your car for in these zones, and they just feel like padding to stretch the runtime. I'm not going to bore you to death with a full rundown of all 50 plus anomalies in the game, as I went in entirely blind, and genuinely believe it to be the best way to experience the game. I will say this, however, it's a great place to go on a family trip. All anomalies can be scanned for some info on how to deal with them, and some lore behind them like research papers or conversation logs. Combat in Pacific Drive isn't about firepower, it's about horsepower. You'll find yourself flooring the gas pedal as the zone's anomalies chase you down. The game ingeniously integrates these chase sequences with puzzle-solving elements, where you must use your wits and your wheels to navigate through obstacles. The exploration aspect is equally thrilling. Each abandoned campground, roadside diner, and foggy lake holds clues about the mysteries of the zone. You're encouraged to venture out of your car for nerve-wracking scavenging missions, where you can find not only fuel and parts, but also audio logs and eerie artifacts that piece together the lore of this cursed region. But watch out, as the longer you're out of your car, the higher the risk is of you encountering something that doesn't like your presence. Additionally, the game's AI adapts to your playstyle, learning from your decisions and routes, making each excursion unpredictable. Do you stick to the known paths or brave the unknown for better rewards? Each choice comes with its own set of risks. The visuals and audio of Pacific Drive is where the game truly excels, immersing you in a world that's as beautifully terrifying as it is audibly haunting. Ironwood Studios has leveraged Unreal Engine 4 not just to craft environments, but to create atmospheres thick with tension and horror. As you start the ignition and the headlights flicker to life, the visual splendor of the Olympic Exclusion Zone comes into stark relief against the backdrop of night. The game's lighting effects deserve a standing ovation. The way the fog catches the light, creating eerie silhouettes, or how raindrops streak across your windshield under the glow of a street lamp, adds layers of dread and beauty in equal measure. The attention to detail is meticulous, from the rust in your car's bumper to the peeling paint on an abandoned gas station sign. Every visual element builds on the game's oppressive atmosphere. The environments are a character in their own right, dynamically changing with the weather system and time of day. The shadows at dusk are not the same as those at midnight, and this variability not only impacts visibility but also affects the gameplay, making each journey through the same location feel distinctly different. The game's sound design is nothing short of a masterclass in auditory manipulation. The sound of your car's engine, whether it's purring softly during a cautious drive or roaring as you float away from danger, sets the tone for your adventure. The environmental sounds envelop you. Wind howls through the trees, leaves rustle ominously, and distant thunders promise more than just a storm. Game's use of silence is equally effective, often leaving you in suffocating quiet, making sudden noises all the more frightening. The soundtrack is a careful composition of ambient tracks and tense scores that respond to gameplay cues. As danger approaches, the music swells subtly, enough to raise your pulse without overwhelming the natural sounds of the environment. This orchestration of sound not only enhances the sense of immersion, but also plays a crucial role in the gameplay, with auditory cues often being your only warning of unseen threats. Adding another layer, the car radio offers a mix of in-game music and static-laden broadcasts that provide backstory and hints, all while contributing to the game's lore. Occasionally, it'll catch a signal, delivering a haunting melody or a fragment of a distress call, radio show, or news broadcast, which can either be momentary relief or a deepening of the game's mystery. This radio is usually also your only auditory companion during the long drives between points of note, and I found myself quite thankful for its existence. The synergy between the visual and sound in Pacific Drive creates a palpable tension that's rare in video games. This marriage of sight and sound not only elevates the horror elements but also enriches the driving experience, making every decision to venture into the dark a test of courage. Whether you're navigating the dim glow of your dashboard or jumping at the sound of something unseen in the underbrush, the game ensures that you're never 100% comfortable. The game abruptly kicks off as you, a simple delivery driver, find yourself trapped in the mysterious Olympic Exclusion Zone after a routine job goes horribly wrong. There are no heroics here, no deep family ties pulling you deeper into the abyss. Just the harsh reality of survival in a place that seems to actively work against you. The primary connection to the narrative is through the car that you come across after getting teleported into the zone, which serves as both your lifeline and your prison. Alright, after waking up we find the fragments left of our van. Getting used to the movement controls, we come across a worn down station wagon. After reattaching a wheel and going on a swift drive, we make it to an abandoned auto shop. and after getting acquainted with the friendly owner, we set up a base of operations, crafting our first pieces of gear and parts to make our car at least somewhat drivable. After doing so, we installed the arc device in our passenger seat, which we can use to harvest anchors to collect limb energy in order to unlock new blueprints or better upgrades. Once we're out on our first drive, the game tries to give me an epileptic fit by making the skybox do a rave. As we're out collecting plasma, Tobias explains to us what remnants are. Essentially, they're special items that bind themselves to people. And this car just so happened to choose us. But here's the catch. Eventually, anyone bound to a remnant becomes obsessed with it, loses their mind and vanishes into the zone, never to be heard from again. Our goal is to avoid that, of course. Afterwards, we go collect some parts for an antenna, as well as a limb anchor before making a gateway back to the garage. Our second expedition has us scan some anomalies in order to learn about the zone and its dangers. After doing so, we're told to drive to something called Colossal Cappy. We're going there in order to drive our car into it, testing to see if it's a remnant in the first place. As Oppie, a jaded scientist, is still skeptical about the whole thing. After taking in the view, we drive into town and lower the barricade blocking us from fully approaching Cappy. Once we do so, we arrive back at the garage, and with all our limbs still attached. We chart a few more routes into the map before being instructed to return to Sierram once more, and after getting there, we're told to find a nearby watchtower to scan a map that holds the locations of nearby stabilizers. We scan it, head back to the garage, patch up the numerous holes in our car, and return back to Sierram again. We link the 3 stabilizers in order to be able to get deeper into the zone. After completing many drives just to upgrade our car, we travel towards the mid-zone expansion wall. But before doing so, I must have a quick tangent about the small kerfuffle I had on the way to the wall. While going there, my car decided to just turn off, and I couldn't turn it back on again. I tried literally everything to fix it. Both my engine and battery were fine. I had fuel in the tank. Most of my car panels were in good shape. I said fuck it, and decided to continue on foot in order to hopefully fix it by going to the next zone. But you can't leave zones while not being in your car. Probably should have seen that one coming, to be fair. I gave up and abandoned my run, going back to the garage. Once I got there, the car was still dead. I checked my engine again, rechecked my tires, and patched up more parts of the car. Still nothing. I then proceeded to literally make a Reddit post about my issue, which was not fun. I fucking hate Reddit. I came back a few hours later and kicked my car into the garage. I diagnosed my quirks, and the only one I had was one of my rear doors opening anytime I opened the driver's door. After fixing it, I noticed the car had now ran out of gas. And after filling up my tank again, the car magically started. Although this can't have been the primary issue, as my tank had plenty of gas left in it when the car started to not work. All I can think of is that this is some potentially game-breaking bug that I happened to stumble upon. Great game, unironically 0 out of 10. After these brief 2 hours of losing my mind, I finally continued on towards the mid-zone wall, and drove through it without much issue at all. Once we're into the mid-zone, we hook up another stabilizer to be able to use all of Oppie's equipment here too. Once we're back at the garage, we do a small favor for Tobias and Francis by exploring the garage until we find a hidden room behind the bathroom, and send Oppie's hard drive to them. After upgrading our arc device, we venture back out into the zone and travel to 3 places marked by Tobias, each one of them being a mural painted long ago by an artist scientist that went insane because of the zone. After scanning each of the murals, we return to the garage. Next, we're told to go to a place called Red Meadow in order to find a doctor's lab. Once we arrive, we drive our way inside and explore the ruins of the lab until we get to the main testing chamber. I scan the research data before returning back to the garage again. Afterwards, we can finally make our way into the deep zone, which is where all of the anomalies originated from in the first place. Once we get there, we must connect a bunch of gates by using our car as an electrical conduit, driving from point to point within a set amount of time. I actually really enjoyed this part, as it was a nice change of pace from the standard gameplay. After linking all the gates, we make it to the deep zone, turn on another stabilizer and return back to the garage. Once we patch up our car for the final time, we venture out to find the well, which is the source of the zone and all of its madness. We get there and drive into it, being teleported into a long winding hallway of televisions. As we walk through them, we overhear many conversations from the past, between Oppie and her deceased husband as they discovered and experimented with limb tech. We hear Tobias and Francis discuss amongst each other about refusing artist evacuation orders and deciding to remain in the zone after the company ceased operations. Lastly, we get a message from the deceased Tobias, who sacrificed himself during our electricity run. Tobias thanks Francis for staying with him for all these years, and Francis thanks him for believing in him. He also gives Oppie a message from her husband, asking why she hasn't taken his advice yet. At the end of the maze, we find our trusty ride waiting for us once again, and we go on a final ride, driving into the gateway at the center of the zone. Once back at the garage, Oppie reveals she too heard Alan and Tobias' voices, and she decides to leave the zone, no longer feeling guilty about his death. She hands Francis the reins of the Arda equipment, and says that the driver is now free to stay, or return home, if they wish. Without a defined main character or voice, the story of Pacific Drive unfolds through your interactions with the environment and the decisions you make. It's a narrative choice that places you directly in the driver's seat, both literally and figuratively. Each decision you make, from the paths you choose to the resources you prioritize, shapes your journey and, by extension, your character's identity. This anonymity adds a layer of universal relatability. Anyone could be behind the wheel, and every player's story is unique to their playthrough. The zone itself is a brilliantly realized antagonist and the main storyteller. As you navigate its haunted roads and abandoned sites, the game reveals its story in fragments. An old recorder tape here, a discarded research paper there. The environmental storytelling is rich with implications of past calamities and the echoes of those who once tried to tame the wilderness or escape it. I, however, can't help but feel that the game's ending feels a little bit rushed. You get little to no answers about the actual origins of the anomalies themselves, or how Limtech was responsible for them. Hell, there's not even a way for you to truly end the game, despite Oppie telling you that it's up to you if you want to leave or to keep driving to help Francis learn more about the zone. While this may be perfectly fine for some, I can't help but feel the game was building up to something with a little more payoff. As we turn off the engine for the final time, it's time to reflect on the ride that Pacific Drive has taken us on. This game isn't just another entry in the survival horror genre, or a simple driving sim. It's an innovative blend of both that tests your nerve and your skill in equal measure. The core of Pacific Drive lies in its unique gameplay mechanics. The game successfully marries the thrill of high-speed driving with the chill of survival horror, creating a tense, ever-changing environment that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The need to maintain and upgrade your vehicle adds a layer of strategic depth that is rarely seen in either genre, making every decision about resource management feel impactful. Visually and sonically, the game is a masterpiece of atmospheric tension. The Unreal Engine brings the hauntingly beautiful Olympic Exclusion Zone to life with stunning realism. The way light plays through the mist, the sound of rain pattering on the roof of your car, and the eerie silence that falls over the world when you turn off the engine. All these elements combine to create an immersive world that's as beautiful as it is dangerous. While Pacific Drive may lack a traditional narrative, it excels in environmental storytelling and immersive gameplay. The game respects the intelligence of its players, allowing them to learn and to piece together the mysteries of the zone at their own pace, in accordance with bits and pieces of story that the other characters supply you with. The game's cast, although small in number, delivers their dialogue with a level of excellence that I honestly haven't seen in a game of this scale in a very long time. This minimalist approach to storytelling might not appeal to everyone, but for those who relish piecing together clues and uncovering secrets hidden in the world around them, it offers a deeply satisfying narrative experience. The game's dynamic environment and non-linear gameplay ensure high replayability. No two journeys through the zone are the same, with varying environmental hazards and anomalies that challenge you to adapt and overcome. This unpredictability, coupled with the game's robust mechanics, ensures that Pacific Drive can be revisited time and time again, offering new challenges and discoveries with each voyage. In conclusion, Pacific Drive is a bold experiment in genre blending that pays off beautifully. It challenges conventional game design by offering an experience that's as unsettling as it is exhilarating. Whether you're a fan of survival horror, driving simulators, or just looking for something new and exciting in the gaming landscape, Pacific Drive offers a compelling reason to jump behind the wheel. 8 station wagons out of 10. Hey there, thanks for watching to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe, as I have 253 more videos to make between now and the inevitable heat of the universe. Follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. I've been Zediverse, and I'm off to stop another zombie apocalypse. I mean, damn, they announced the Dead Rising remake. That means it's crunch time, lads.